Millions of Americans are opening their mail, and everything is changing. Social Security has just sent out a wave of letters that could quietly reshape pension expectations. No warnings. No clear explanations. Just sudden updates that are leaving retirees confused and worried. For many, this isn't just paperwork. It's their future income. Their security. Their survival. People who thought their benefits were safe are now asking one terrifying question. Is my pension about to be cut or changed? And as pressure grows, Barnie Sanders is stepping in with strong criticism and urgent demands for answers. But what does this really mean for you or your family? And are these changes already locked in? What is really hidden inside these Social Security letters, and who could be affected next? In this video, you'll find out exactly what these Social Security letters contain, what changes are being discussed, and who could be impacted the most. We'll break down what is confirmed, what is still unclear, and what you should do right now to protect your benefits. No confusion. No panic. Just clear facts you need to know today. But before you react too quickly, there's more beneath the surface than most people realize. Some of these changes are not what they first appear to be, and hidden details in the letters are raising even bigger questions. Let's go step by step, because what comes next might completely change how you see your Social Security future. So what is really inside these Social Security letters, and why are so many people suddenly talking about them like something big is about to happen? Because here's the thing. When millions of envelopes go out at the same time, it's never just routine paperwork in the minds of the people receiving them. Even if the official explanation says everything is normal, the human reaction is very different. You open something from Social Security, your heart already beats a little faster. You don't even need to read the first line to feel it. And right now, that feeling is spreading across households, one mailbox at a time. Let's slow this down for a moment, because this matters. A lot of people are reporting that these letters are tied to updates, clarifications, or notices about benefits. And even when the changes are small or procedural, the way they are communicated can feel overwhelming. If you've ever received a letter about healthcare, taxes, or retirement adjustments, you already know that moment when your eyes scan for one thing only. Am I losing something? That's exactly why this situation has exploded into conversation so quickly. Now, Barnie Sanders has entered the discussion publicly, raising concerns about transparency and how information is being delivered to retirees and working citizens who depend heavily on Social Security. His stance, as always, focuses on protecting benefits and ensuring that people are not left confused or uncertain about changes that directly affect their financial survival. But let's be real for a second. Regardless of political views, when someone high-profile speaks out about Social Security communication, it amplifies fear and attention instantly. People start asking questions that they might not have even considered before. Could this be the beginning of structural changes? Is this just a routine update being misunderstood? Or is there something deeper happening that hasn't been fully explained yet? And that uncertainty is where anxiety grows. Because for many retirees, Social Security isn't just a system. It's rent money. It's groceries. It's medication. It's the difference between stability and constant stress. So even a simple letter can feel like a signal that something bigger is shifting in the background. But here's what's important to understand before jumping to conclusions. Not every official letter means a reduction or negative change. In many cases, these communications are sent to confirm existing records, update beneficiaries on policy adjustments that are already law, or ensure compliance with administrative requirements. Governments and institutions often send large-scale notices when systems are updated, even slightly, just to keep records accurate and reduce future errors. The problem is not always the content itself. The problem is timing, volume, and clarity. When thousands or millions of people receive similar letters around the same time, and when those letters contain technical language, it creates space for misunderstanding. And in today's world, misunderstanding spreads faster than clarification. So what people are really reacting to is not just the letters, but the feeling that something is happening without enough explanation. And that's where Barnie Sanders' response adds fuel to the conversation. His messaging tends to focus on accountability, warning against decisions or communication styles that leave ordinary citizens confused about their financial future. Whether you agree with him or not, his involvement pushes the topic into mainstream attention, which means more people start looking at their own mail a little differently. Now, let's talk about something very real that often gets ignored in these discussions. Even when nothing major changes, fear can feel like change. If you receive a letter that looks official, mentions benefits, or uses unfamiliar terminology, your mind automatically tries to fill in the gaps. And most people don't fill in those gaps with neutral assumptions. They fill them with worst-case scenarios. That's human psychology. It's not unique to Social Security, it happens with banks, taxes, insurance, anything tied to survival and money. So what we're seeing right now is a mix of real administrative communication and emotional interpretation layered on top of it. But there's another angle we need to consider, and this is where things become even more interesting. Whenever a large-scale communication like this happens, it often signals that some form of system adjustment is underway. Not necessarily cuts, not necessarily reductions, but sometimes updates to eligibility checks, recalculations, verification steps, or policy clarifications. These are the kinds of changes that don't always make headlines but still require mass notification. And if you're someone who relies on Social Security now, or expects to in the future, this is exactly why paying attention matters. Because even small adjustments in how information is processed or verified can impact timelines, documentation requirements, or how quickly benefits are confirmed. It doesn't always mean less money. Sometimes it simply means different procedures. But different procedures can still create confusion if they are not clearly explained. And that brings us back to the emotional core of this situation. People don't just want information. They want certainty. They want to know that what they rely on today will still be there tomorrow. And when that certainty feels even slightly shaken, every letter, every headline, every political comment starts to feel connected. Now, I want to pause here and talk directly to you for a moment. If you've received one of these letters, or if someone in your family has, don't panic and assume the worst immediately. The most important thing you can do right now is read it carefully, look for official references, and if anything feels unclear, verify it through official Social Security channels rather than relying on rumors or social media summaries. And yes, I know that sounds simple. But in moments like this, simplicity is powerful. Because confusion is what creates fear. And clarity is what reduces it. Now, as this conversation continues to grow, there's something else happening in the background that many people are starting to notice. More public figures, commentators, and policy voices are stepping in to interpret what these communications might mean. And that includes Barnie Sanders, who continues to push for clearer explanations and stronger protections for beneficiaries. But here's where things get even more important. Because whenever political voices enter the conversation, information can quickly become mixed with interpretation. And that makes it harder for everyday people to separate what is confirmed from what is opinion. So the real challenge for you as a viewer is not just understanding the letters, it's understanding how to process the information around them without getting overwhelmed. And that's exactly what we're going to keep breaking down. Now, let's talk about what most viewers are probably thinking right now but haven't said out loud yet. Okay, but should I be worried? And the honest answer is this: you should be aware, not afraid. There's a big difference. Awareness means you pay attention to updates, you read official communication carefully, and you stay informed about potential changes. Fear means you assume the worst without confirmation, and that often leads to stress that isn't based on reality. Right now, the situation is better understood as a communication wave rather than a confirmed benefit crisis. But because it involves something as sensitive as retirement income, it naturally feels more serious than it may actually be in policy terms. And this is why videos like this matter. Not because they tell you what to think, but because they help slow down the noise so you can actually process what's happening. Before we continue deeper into what might come next, I want to take a quick moment to say this clearly. If you're finding this explanation helpful so far, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps more people find this kind of breakdown instead of getting lost in confusing headlines. And if you've got family or friends who rely on Social Security, consider sharing this with them too. Sometimes one clear explanation can calm a lot of unnecessary worry. Now, coming back to the situation. One of the most interesting developments here is how quickly public attention has shifted from mail notices to system trust. That's a much bigger conversation. Because once people start questioning how clearly information is being communicated, it naturally leads to broader discussions about transparency, policy updates, and government messaging. Barnie Sanders' involvement, whether you agree with his perspective or not, is part of that shift. His statements tend to amplify the call for clearer communication, especially for older citizens who may not easily interpret technical policy language. And that resonates with a lot of people, because at the end of the day, no one wants to feel confused about their own income security. But let's ground this again. As of now, there is no universal confirmation that these letters indicate a direct reduction in benefits. What we are seeing instead is a combination of administrative updates, large-scale communication efforts, and public interpretation layered with concern. However, and this is important, moments like this often come before more detailed explanations are released publicly. So staying informed over the next few weeks is important. And that brings us naturally into what we'll explore next. Because in the next part of this video, we're going to break down what people are actually seeing inside these letters, what sections tend to cause confusion, and how to read them without misinterpreting the message. We'll also look at what steps you can take if you're unsure about your own notice, and how to confirm what applies to your specific situation. And trust me, once you see how these letters are structured and what they usually mean in plain language, a lot of the fear starts to make more sense, and often starts to shrink. So stay with me, because what comes next might completely change how you look at that envelope sitting on your table right now. Now that we've walked through everything step by step, let's bring it all together in a clear and grounded way, because this is the part where things often either become more confusing or finally start to make sense. Right now, what we're seeing is a wave of concern triggered by official Social Security letters being sent out at scale, combined with strong public reactions from figures like Barnie Sanders, who is once again calling attention to how important clear communication and protection of benefits really is. And when you put those two things together, official notices on one side and emotional political reactions on the other, it's very easy for the public conversation to feel bigger and more alarming than the actual confirmed changes might be. But here's the key point that you really need to hold on to. A letter from Social Security is not automatically a warning of reduced benefits. In most cases, it is part of a larger system of updates, record confirmations, or procedural adjustments that are required to keep everything accurate and legally up to date. These systems are massive. They deal with millions of people, and even small changes require large-scale communication. That alone can create anxiety, especially when the wording is technical or unclear. And that's where the real issue sits, not necessarily in the content itself, but in how it is received. Because when people depend on something as essential as Social Security for their daily life, even neutral updates can feel personal. A single sentence that isn't fully understood can quickly turn into fear. A technical term can feel like a hidden warning. And before long, uncertainty spreads faster than facts. This is why voices like Barnie Sanders become part of the discussion. He represents a broader concern that many people share, that communication about critical benefits should be simple, transparent, and easy for everyone to understand without needing interpretation or guesswork. Whether you agree with his politics or not, the emotional core of his message connects with a real concern. People want clarity about their financial future, not confusion. But even with all of that said, it's important to stay balanced. As of now, there is no confirmed evidence that these letters automatically mean cuts, reductions, or immediate negative changes to benefits across the board. What we are dealing with is a mix of administrative communication and public interpretation. And those two things do not always match perfectly. So what should you actually take away from all of this? First, don't panic based on headlines or social media summaries alone. If you or someone you know has received a letter, the most important thing is to read it carefully, understand the purpose of the notice, and verify any unclear details directly through official Social Security channels. That step alone eliminates a huge amount of unnecessary fear. Second, understand that large systems like Social Security constantly evolve. Updates happen regularly, sometimes quietly, sometimes in bulk, and sometimes in ways that require mass communication. That doesn't automatically mean something negative is happening, it often means the system is doing what it's supposed to do, which is stay accurate and updated. Third, recognize how easily emotional reactions can spread in situations like this. When people feel uncertain about money, retirement, or security, fear fills in the gaps very quickly. That's why staying grounded in verified information is so important right now. And finally, remember that awareness is your strongest tool. Being informed, staying calm, and checking facts before reacting puts you in control. Confusion thrives in silence and speculation, but clarity grows when you take a moment to understand what's actually being said. So where does this leave us? It leaves us in a situation where attention is high, emotions are strong, and questions are completely valid, but confirmed impact is still something that needs careful verification rather than assumption. Barnie Sanders' response adds to the urgency of public discussion, but the real truth for each individual will always come down to the specific details inside their own notice and official confirmation from the source itself. And that brings us to the most important final thought. If you've received one of these letters, or if you're waiting and feeling uncertain, don't let the fear of what if replace the clarity of what is actually written. Take it step by step. Read carefully. Verify when needed. And remember that not every official update is a warning of loss, sometimes it's just the system doing its job in a very large and very complex environment. Now I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know received one of these Social Security letters yet? And if you did it feel clear or confusing when you first read it? Share your experience in the comments, because real stories from real people help others understand what's actually happening on the ground. And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Not just for support, but because this channel is focused on cutting through confusion like this and turning complex updates into simple, human understanding you can actually use. In the next video, we're going to go even deeper into what specific sections of these letters usually mean line by line, and how to quickly identify what actually affects you versus what is just standard information. Because once you understand how to read them properly, these letters stop feeling scary and start feeling a lot more manageable. Stay tuned, because there's still more you need to know.